KFI AM 640. It's later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube and Instagram. Instagram is back. And, of course, we're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It's a huge news day in Southern California. We have Lakers news, which coincides with Dodgers news, which coincides with 7-Eleven news. Really? Yes. We have a 7-Eleven update. And you know it's never good when it's 7-Eleven. If it's Metro or 7-Eleven, it's probably not positive. And also, we have the story behind Hillary Swank, why she was not part of Cobra Kai. For all of you Karate Kid fans out there and Cobra Kai fans, you're probably wondering, why wasn't Hillary Swank part of Cobra Kai? We got the story today. And to piss off Mark Ronner, hey, good evening, Mark Ronner. How are you? I didn't see you there.
I'm glad you began that way. Thank you. We know what your agenda is early on.
Mattel is teaming up with OpenAI to make new products. In other words, more jobs are going to be gone in the near term. That was just for you.
Thank you for that.
How's your sexy ass doing? People are still asking about it.
Let's just move on, please. Let's get through the evening with a shred of dignity left. Okay?
Oh, come on.
Is that all right with you?
That's not what this show's about.
Yeah, you're actually right about that. Yeah,
the fans want to know.
That's right.
What could I have been thinking?
That's what you get for wearing shorts up in here.
Yeah, true. The Speedo's next. Somebody like that in there, I can tell.
Tyler Perry, he is in trouble. He is being sued for sexual assault and sexual harassment. We're going to get into that and talk about some of the details of what has been alleged. And I always say, we don't know these people. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's untrue. I'm saying we don't know Tyler Perry personally. Have I met him? Yes. Have I been around him? Yes. Helped book him for a radio show when I was a radio producer many years ago. I wouldn't say that I would know him or what goes on in his personal life, but someone has come forward, and the allegations include text messages. So you know what that means. There's already evidence on the table, and it doesn't look good. And since it's Wednesday, you know it's time for the Viral Load at 9 p.m. tonight. Tiffany Hobbs will be joining us in studio with the latest in social media, the stories that we're discussing, the challenges that we're conducting, all the stupid things that we're doing just because of social media. And I tell you how I love watching documentaries because of the streaming revolution. There are more documentaries produced than ever before. I don't know. I talked about it here on the show, but I don't know if anyone got to see it. Mark, did you by chance get to see the Peacock documentary called Gary, talking about the life and ultimate death of Gary Coleman?
No, I haven't yet. We talked about it, and I put it on my list, though.
If you get a chance, it's now relevant again. So go back if you get some time to watch it, because Gary Coleman's ex-wife, Shannon Price, she's saying that she's willing to take a lie detector test because coming out of that documentary, there were renewed suspicions that she actually murdered him. Now, we all know that a lie detector test is not proof of anything, but she feels that she can clear her name by way of a lie detector test. We're going to play some of the audio later on tonight from that documentary when Shannon Price tells her side of the story. You can come to your own conclusion, and also what's next for her, and also, how general society is weighing in on that. And for my final thought tonight, I'm just letting you know it's going to be U.S. and Iran. I'm going to go deep on that. I'm going to do a deep dive, historical dive as far as what has happened in the past 70 years, basically, and what's happening right now and what we should expect going forward. It's a scary time. Let's be real. We haven't been this close to some sort of armed conflict or armed aggression involving Iran since maybe 1979 in earnest. Now, we've had some issues along the way. We'll talk about that, but we're closer now than ever before. It's unfortunate because I thought this was the no more wars. Never mind. And the City of Carson, they have prohibited all fireworks. And if you're not from that area, you may not know that Carson had allowed for some time that you could buy Safe and Sane fireworks. That's the fireworks brand that they don't shoot into the air. They don't really explode. They're more like flicker, and they're less dangerous, arguably, than the more traditional forms of fireworks that we see and the illegal ones going on in everybody's neighborhood, like right now. I can't speak for anyone else. Carnation, I'm just going to ask you, I know you're just really walking in, and welcome back. Carnation wasn't with us last night. She wasn't feeling too well. That's the on button. You have to hit the on button. There
I
you
did
go.
hit it.
Okay, now we can hear you. Is this your first, or will this be your first 4th of July in Southern California?
This will be.
Oh.
This will be.
An everlasting love. Yeah, I know that song. Natalie Cole. But
And it is everlasting.
the 4th of July has already started in Southern California. No, you don't understand. I've been to New Orleans. I know they can throw a party. But when it comes to fireworks in Southern California, it is unnatural what people do. It goes on for days, and once it gets started, I mean, in earnest, it starts maybe July 3rd. They'll really start going crazy. It sounds like what I imagine to be a war zone.
Yes.
It's going to be otherworldly. And if you're not from Southern California, you don't have a real reference point, because it goes on at least on July 4th through July 5th.
We live downtown, and I'm hearing fireworks every day.
Yes.
Like early in the morning,
Yes.
even before coming into the studio, it
Yes.
sounded like a bomb went off. And I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Oh, it's just warming up, Carnation. I'm here to tell you, it's just getting started. So we'll have to talk about the city of Carson, what they're trying to do to help alleviate that. Yes, I'm going to get into the Lakers at the bottom of this hour. I want to finish my thoughts on that. So much to discuss with that. You probably heard by now the Lakers are being sold to one of the Dodgers owners. And so the Lakers, $10 billion, the price tag. $10 billion, the most expensive sale of a franchise in sports history, at least as of right now. $10 billion, pending approval by the NBA. So we have so much to discuss tonight. We're going to hear from you and the Momigos in the Motown chat. I know they've already got it going. The party started. We're live on Instagram. We're live on YouTube. And we're live on KFI and everywhere else on the iHeartRadio app. I was never a kid who was really big on fireworks. I had an accident where a kid put a firework in my hand and exploded in my hand. This was like maybe 6th or 7th grade. So I was never really big on fireworks. You didn't have to tell me to stay away from them. But for some people, it's a lifelong attraction. You see adults 35, 40, 45 years old lighting off these illegal fireworks, professional grade fireworks, and they're dangerous not only to that person, but the rest of the community, set a house on fire, what have you. And over the years and decades, we've seen fewer and fewer legal places to purchase fireworks. There were some cities, I think Inglewood for a while, I know Carson would, and you get Safe and Sane. Safe and Sane, they didn't explode, they didn't fly in the air, but they were still legal. No more. Let's go to Carson for a second. The city council recently adopted an ordinance prohibiting all fireworks, repealing the previous rule that allowed the Safe and Sane variety that I just told you about. Under this new policy, violators could be fined up to $5,000 for the first, and first offense citations are $2,000. Second offenses are $3,000, and third offenses will get you the $5,000. Now, who's going to get cited 3 times? I'm not even sure someone's going to get cited just 1 time. But here's this. Those who report the use of fireworks in the city can receive rewards up to $250 or $500. If you're willing to rat out someone, to dime on someone, to snitch on someone, you might be the recipient of $500. But here's the thing which really bothers me, and I'm being serious about this. Carson's going to partner with the LA County Sheriff's and Fire's departments to enforce the policy. I'm fine with that. I'm fine. But this is how they're going to do it. They're going to use drones to closely surveil the community and identify violators. That concerns me. Remember, we've had this conversation before about using drones and monitoring what people are doing in their backyards, what people are doing in, quote unquote, the private aspect of their lives. And then you have police monitoring that and the unintended consequences of what may come out of that. If you're watching YouTube right now, you can see Mayor Lula Davis Holmes, who was making the announcement. I have always been reticent to be too supportive of drones flying over our houses. And I remember last time we talked about drones, someone said, well, what about a helicopter? Isn't that the same thing? Not really. It doesn't have the degree of detail, and it's not just like right over your backyard with a camera and can map your backyard. Map? What do you mean, Mo? Well, if you've ever had like your backyard done or landscaped, it is common practice that they'll use a drone to scan your backyard for dimensions so they can render you a mock of what your backyard will look like. And all I'm saying is that's a lot of information to be giving out, and the capability is such that it can be done with your backyard under any circumstances. And the thought of law enforcement just looking in my backyard to see if people are using illegal fireworks. It didn't say that it was only going to use the drone to see if you're using illegal fireworks on the street. I would have to interpret this that they're actually looking in your backyards as well and monitoring your activity. That makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I'm not pro fireworks, but I am pro privacy, even though it is an illusion to a large degree. But I understand the need to want to clamp down on this. The fireworks are dangerous. And I was kidding Carnisha last segment, but she will see up close and personal what I'm talking about. Stefan, he knows exactly what's awaiting Carnisha.
Yes,
and you
sir.
can't really adequately describe it. Mark, I don't know in your neighborhood whether it's as bad as far as the illegal professional grade fireworks.
Oh, it's like living in Beirut. Make
Okay.
no mistake. My neighbors keep the 4th of July alive all year round. I hate it.
And I have this love-hate relationship with it. Like, I like to see the fireworks. I like to go outside. And if you were to come to Chateau Le Maux, I can't get Mark out there. There are too many people there. He doesn't like people.
Well, maybe this year, though.
Okay, you are we're rolling tape
That's
on this,
on
right?
tape. No,
Okay,
no, no.
you're right. You know what I'm getting ready to say. You are invited, Mark Ronner, to the 5th annual or semi-annual, because COVID got in the way, Chateau Le Maux 4th of July celebration live broadcast.
The numbers are coming down. It might be safer this year.
All right.
We're down to like 200 COVID deaths a week.
And we won't even make you work that night. You can just hang out. You can have the long-suffering one drive, and you can have a drink with me.
Well, let me consult with her on that.
We need like a waiting for Mark, like waiting for Eddie for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you, nobody
Countdown.
loves anything greater than being appointed a designated driver in their absence when they don't get a vote on it.
Well, okay.
That'll be great.
Life is difficult sometimes.
But
But I will say this.
we're overdue.
We have a backyard area, so you don't have to be in the house per se.
Mhm.
We'll have the garage where we have a seating area, so it's open air. You won't have to necessarily be too close to people.
You'll be renting some honey buckets for the backyard, will you?
Honey buckets. What, for the bees?
Porta potties?
No. You can go in the house.
Ah, okay.
I mean, look, or you can hold it. It's up to you.
No, we're not holding anything around here. Can we refocus, please?
Fireworks. All I'm saying is Carnisha doesn't know what's awaiting her. But I was saying that my love-hate relationship with is from my house, there's a vantage point in a community park in our development. And Stefan, you haven't even seen this yet. Hopefully we can get you out.
Yeah.
It's a 360 panoramic view of all the fireworks in Southern California. Not necessarily as far as San Diego, but you can see Disneyland, you can see Marina del Rey, you can see downtown Los Angeles, and it's a beautiful view. Now, the danger is, in my neighborhood, and probably yours too, Stefan, there are folks who celebrate the 4th of July with guns. They don't use actual fireworks. They just shoot off the guns in the air. Carnisha's looking at me like I'm crazy. No, I'm being serious. And if Twala were here, he's out doing something. That is a real thing. And they warn against it every single year. Every single year, someone still does it. And if you've lived in the city long enough, you can usually tell the difference in the sound between gunshots and fireworks.
Well, the problem is those bullets come down eventually.
That's the problem.
I'm like, they don't shoot it in the ground because in New Orleans, they shoot at the ground.
No. They shoot up into the air. That and on New Year's Eve too.
And they don't use logic that it, like Mark said, that it comes down.
Yeah.
We have gravity.
Yeah.
They often forget to factor in gravity.
Well, they're not shooting. I'm quite sure they're not shooting. At 12 o'clock. They're probably shooting at 11 o'clock. So they think it's not going to harm them. They're not worried about
Exactly.
themselves.
It'll just lodge harmlessly in the moon. What do they care?
Yeah, of course. But it's a real thing. It is something that when I lived in Harbor City, I would watch the fireworks, but I was always under some sort of overhang or an awning or something
Yeah.
to keep
Like a
keep me
shield.
safe, just to shield me if
Yeah.
there should be a bullet falling down. And people go, Mo, why won't you come out and watch the fireworks? I'm good. I'll stay right here.
Same though. Look, my love-hate with it is just like it's fun to watch, but it's like by 2:30 in the morning, I think it's time to go to bed. Or
So
at
we
least
should
just
wear hard hats.
pack it up.
for your party.
You could. Some Kevlar would be in order.
A good host would supply the hard hats.
Yeah, but I don't know if the construction hard hats would be enough.
Okay.
And Kevlar is too expensive and illegal in some places.
It is a little pricey.
Yeah, it is. But I still want you to come if you're willing to, risk getting shot.
This might be the year.
I mean, you've been shot before with non-lethal rounds, so you should be somewhat used to this.
It still sucks. You never get used to it. It's not like you work up a tolerance for getting shot.
You sure?
Fairly sure, yeah.
Okay. It's later with Mo Kelly. We got to talk about the Lakers. Big news today. You've probably heard some of it. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. The Lakers are in the process of being sold to one of the owners of the Dodgers. What that might mean for the team, what that might mean for just Los Angeles more broadly. We'll talk about it next on the iHeartRadio app. I love the Los Angeles Lakers. I've been a Lakers fan since 1977. Don't ask me why I remember that, but I do remember that very quickly. I was in love with the Lakers before Showtime, but I got to see all of Showtime with Magic Johnson, with Kareem. And I think that's when I started watching the Lakers, when Kareem came to the Lakers. I think that was 1977. I got to see all the greatness of the Lakers, including Shaq and Kobe and Paul Gasol. I mention that because in between those moments of greatness, there were some rough times. There were some lean moments, especially when Shaq left the Lakers and it was just Kobe for a while. There were some really, really bad teams. I mention this because there was a question of whether the team had lost its way. Dr. Jerry Buss, who purchased the Lakers in 1979 for about $67 million, if I remember correctly, he passed away in 2013. And the franchise largely lost its way. It was not the franchise of greatness in years before. And there was a question of leadership. When Dr. Buss passed away, he gave the team to Jim Buss to initially run. And then there was an internal fight in the family, and Jeannie Buss eventually took over and was the principal owner. And we've had up and down moments. Obviously, getting LeBron and the championship in 2020 helped to some degree, but they haven't had the type of success that Lakers fans are used to. So there has been a growing movement for Jeannie Buss and the family, the Buss family, to sell the team, and that moment has now come. Today it was announced that the Lakers are being sold to one of its minority owners, Mark Walter, who was the principal owner of the Dodgers. That's very, very, very important. So not only will the Lakers be owned by someone who was inside that Laker family and understands the history as well as I do, but it's coming from the standpoint of remaking a franchise in the way that Walter, the Guggenheim Group, remade the Dodgers into a perennial winner and not afraid to spend money. Was like Mo, I know someone thinking, like, well, Mo, don't they have like a salary cap in basketball, so you can't necessarily just spend as much money as you want? Well, they have a soft cap, and that means you can spend up to a certain amount, which is the salary cap, and if you go over that, then you have to pay what is called a luxury tax. They don't care about the luxury tax. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars that they have available to pay players whatever they want. They have done that with the Dodgers, where they paid Shohei Ohtani $700 million over the course of 10 years. They are very, very smart as far as how they structure the contracts. And they know that when you make the right deals, you'll get the return on that investment in the way of merchandising, licensing, and also championships. We've seen it with the Dodgers. That Shohei Ohtani deal in only a second year has paid for itself. And I hope and suspect that they will use that same type of approach with the Lakers. $10 billion, the most expensive franchise sale in the history of sports. And if you're the Buss family, you're not going anywhere. Jeannie Buss and the Buss family, they'll still be minority owners. I think they'll retain 15%. So think of it this way. You control the Lakers. You are the principal owner. You sell the team, or at least the majority stake, for $10 billion, and you still get to make a percentage off the team and its future success without the stress of having it succeed. Now, a part of me is sad because I do remember when Dr. Jerry Buss purchased the Lakers and then the Kings. He purchased the Lakers and Kings at the same time in 1979 from the late Jack Kent Cooke. And the Lakers were a joke at that time. That was right before they got Magic Johnson. Immediately transformed the Lakers and also the NBA, if you remember how the NBA was struggling back then. But then you had Magic and Bird, and the rest, as they say, is history. But that's where the Lakers are headed in their fortunes. I mentioned the Dodgers because I would be remiss if I didn't also give you the latest regarding their ongoing controversy, where today a coalition of Latino groups called out the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had a press conference, and the coalition comprised of Little Latin America, USA, California Rising, El Salvador Corridor Association, CDI Coalition, and the LA Youth and Family Foundation organized this press conference to call out the Dodgers for what we were talking about, for not speaking out in regard and in relation to the ICE raids. Quote, "We are calling on the Dodgers and other prominent LA sports teams to step up and support our initiative, which engages Latino communities throughout Greater Los Angeles. This is a vital opportunity for the Dodgers to join us in championing much-needed cultural events and mutual aid efforts that uplift the most vulnerable, many of whom are longtime Dodgers fans and are also adversely affected by ICE enforcement actions." Close quote. Will this make a difference? I don't know. I don't know if the Dodgers are on the verge of making a statement or taking a stand or addressing the controversy, but I do know it does not help the Dodgers in the eyes of their larger community, the Latino community and their fans in general, because the Dodgers, as I've said before, have a history of speaking out. They have a documented history of also taking a side when it comes to cultural issues. Maybe they're not going to do that anymore, but they will lose fans if they choose to go in this very different direction, because that has been part of the Dodgers brand. So if you're a Dodgers fan, it's almost like good news, bad news. Good news, you can say some of the Dodgers magic, no pun intended, is going to be rubbing off on the Lakers. But the bad news is the Dodgers are still under that cloud of controversy surrounding ICE raids and this reticence not to say anything at all. I'm still a Dodgers fan through and through. I'm definitely a Lakers fan through and through. But I'm not blind to what's going on in the city of Los Angeles and the Dodgers' responsibility, my word, to take a side and to take a stand. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. And we're live on the iHeartRadio app. Make sure if you're going to watch the YouTube show that you like and subscribe. Get a part of the Motown community. Hang out with the Bomigos. Share information and stories. We have a good time there. We're developing the same community on Instagram, and we want you to become part of it. And I'm telling you, it's not my imagination. It is not my imagination. When I tell you to stay away from 7-Eleven, it's because I care about you. I'm concerned about your safety. And we told you about the string of robberies which were taking place at only 7-Eleven, not Circle K, not AM/PM, not the little mini mart, the Dino Mart on the corner, only 7-Eleven. So when I tell you the story about how police are still searching for a driver who crashed into 7-Eleven, seemingly intentionally. Not only is it not safe for you to go to 7-Eleven because it might get robbed while you're there, you might have a car crash into the actual mini mart.
The good news is I just talked to LAPD West Traffic. There was nobody injured, but look at the damage that was done to the 7-Eleven store.
We're showing to you right now on
As you
YouTube.
can see, Pat, there is no car here. LAPD West Traffic Sergeant tells me that the car backed out and took off after crashing into the 7-Eleven. The fire department got here pretty quickly, Pat, because their building is actually right behind the 7-Eleven, so they did not have to go very far at all. That is the fire station, so LAFD members were able to come out and very quickly assess the situation. Meanwhile, the 7-Eleven has some significant damage. It's likely that building and safety will come in, try to make sure that the structural integrity is okay. And now West Traffic Division will have to find the driver. You certainly think the 7-Eleven would have cameras. We'll try to get a hold of that video.
Yeah, there's probably some sort of video that is forthcoming. But I'm thinking if you're 7-Eleven, it seems like every story in the news is negative. Someone's getting robbed, some sort of 7-Eleven's getting looted, or you're having a car careen into the store.
Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. Oh, thank heaven. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven.
Tell me the truth. Maybe the last time you saw a 7-Eleven commercial. I can't think of it. I can't think of a time.
Yeah, all I ever see is AM PM.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones, and that's why it's
Too
like
much good stuff.
yeah, that's all I hear is
Too much good
I
stuff.
mean, and maybe it's because if you're 7-Eleven, why advertise? Because they're always in the news. Always in the news. Of course, not for anything good, but they're always in the news.
Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. Oh, thank heaven. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven.
I got to ask, is there a 7-Eleven equivalent in New Orleans or a 7-Eleven big in New Orleans, Carnisha?
We do have Brothers.
Brothers.
The chicken, they sell chicken.
And yeah, and but it's a gas station as well, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 7-Eleven is usually standalone, but they also sometimes can be found at gas stations. But 7-Eleven is real big out here for some reason.
and some of them sell gas.
Yeah, they do. They do. I just don't understand why, people actually go there because the food isn't good. You might get shot. No, Cardiff, you have to turn on your mic.
The hot dogs are really good, and the nachos.
No, they're not good. They're not. They're not good. The pizza's not good. It's been on that swirling plate for about 4 hours. The hot dogs have been on that roller for 3 hours. You don't know. There's flies flying around. There's nothing protecting the hot dogs from the elements. There's absolutely nothing. I don't know why people eat them. Now, Tawala, he says he still goes to 7-Eleven, maybe for the coffee or something like that. He stops by 7-Eleven on the way to work. I tell people, don't go to 7-Eleven. It's not safe. Here's another example of it not being safe at 7-Eleven, and people will still go. I'm afraid for my life at 7-Eleven. And we do these stories all the time, and it's obvious, like, I'm telling the truth. It is dangerous if you go to a 7-Eleven. But people don't want to believe me.
The good news is I just talked to LAPD West Traffic. There was nobody injured, but look at the damage that was done to the 7-Eleven store. And as you can see, Pat, there is no car here. LAPD West Traffic Sergeant tells me that the car backed out and took off after crashing into the 7-Eleven. The fire department got here pretty quickly, Pat, because their building is actually right behind the 7-Eleven, so they did not have to go very far at all. That is the fire station, so LAFD members were able to come out and very quickly assess the situation. Meanwhile, the 7-Eleven has some significant damage. It's likely that building and safety will come in, try to make sure that the structural integrity is okay. And now West Traffic Division will have to find the driver. You certainly think the 7-Eleven would have cameras. We'll try to get a hold of that video.
In the YouTube Motown chat, Henry Uchiyama says 7-Eleven in Japan is so awesome. From what I can tell, first, 7-Eleven is all around the world.
Yeah, but it's like a whole other. It is a completely different world. I've seen a couple of videos, and they have like gourmet stuff at the Japan ones. It's crazy.
I haven't been to the Japan ones, but I've been to the ones in South Korea. I'm wearing my South Korea T-shirt today.
Nice.
I've been to South Korea, and I've been to the ones in Mexico. The ones in South Korea are 10 times better than the ones in Mexico. So I guess depending on the country, some are better than others. But I would not go to any of them here in America like Tawala does.
I had a stomach ache on my way to work, and
That was the only place you
product
could stop?
placement. I had to stop and get a ginger ale, frosty ginger ale, at the 7-Eleven just down the street, just right down Hollywood Way.
Couldn't you just go to an AM/PM instead, or go to the Dino Mart on the corner of Hollywood Way?
No, I did not want to make the turn to the Dino Mart and have to make all those crazy turns to get out of there. I said,
Not
I'm going
easy.
to go over to the 7-Eleven because I was going to go to CVS. That's the only reason I was over in that area. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the 7-Eleven real quick because they have, Canada Dry ginger ale. It's always frosted. There wasn't a single homeless person outside. There wasn't a
Lucky
single
you.
robber outside. No one inside was trying to sell me rat wings. None of that. Okay, or these filthy hot dogs that Carnisha likes. No one.
They are
Don't
filthy.
judge the hot
They are
dogs.
filthy.
Those things look like they have fallen on the ground all day.
They may have. How do you know?
You
How
don't
do
go.
you
You
know?
don't go there for
I
the food.
watched them put it on the rollers. I don't
That
touch
means it's
the
not
old
cooked.
ones.
If you watch them put it on the rollers, that means it's not ready to be eaten.
All
I
that
ain't
means
picked
is
it
they
up off the
washed it
floor.
in
I
the sink,
enjoyed the big
yes.
ones. Okay.
Jay Solomon in the chat says,
boy.
but the cherry Slurpee, Mo, you can get cherry Slurpees elsewhere, can't you?
Slurpee.
AM/PM.
No, you can
Yeah,
get
but-
slushies at AM/PM.
Yeah.
They only have
Slurpee.
two flavors.
Yeah,
Two
they have like
flavors.
Coca-Cola and cherry.
Yes.
The Coke
Plain.
is bomb.
7-Eleven has all types: blueberry, pineapple, mango. They have all types of crazy
You're
slushies.
going to
if that's
risk your
thing.
life on some blueberry?
I have never been accosted. I've been
Tell the truth.
panhandled.
Okay.
I've been panhandled. Okay, but I typically walk by the panhandler and say, "Hey," especially when my kids were younger. I would say, "All my spare change is right there, man. All my spare change. Right? See those two kids? That's my spare change, man. Move it."
I do remember, and I think it was a 7-Eleven. This was many years ago, and I had much more of a mouth on me than I do today. But I was going into 7-Eleven, and there was a homeless guy outside. I remember because I got so mad. And he said, "Do you have like spare change?" I said, "No, I don't have any spare change." He said, "Brother, I can look at you. I know you have something."
Oh,
First he said, "Brother," it's like, I don't know you.
he was all in your pocket.
Yeah, I hate that. Say, stay out of my pockets. Just because you think I may have something, it doesn't mean that you're entitled to it. I don't care if I have $3 of quarters in my pocket. It doesn't mean that you get a piece of that. And I looked at him. I said, first I said, stay out of my pocket. And if I choose to give you something, all I need to hear from you is thank you. That's it. That's it. We're not going to have a discussion about what's in my pocket.
Now, see, I've had
Negotiate.
someone ask me, said, hey, you got any spare change? I said, nah, man, I never have spare change. Well, when you go in, can you bring me something out to eat? Like adding to my tab when I go in. I'm like, the dirty nerve of you, panhandler, get out of here.
When I was in North Carolina, I can't remember what it was, but it was kind of like it was a sandwich shop or something. And I was out there for a family reunion, and I see this young brother walk up to me, and it's like, okay, I know what this is about. But I'm on guard because I don't like people walking up to me. And he says, "My brother." So, I don't know you. It's always, "My brother, can you help me get something to eat?"
Wait, were you approached by Philip Michael Thomas from Miami Vice?
And no, it was more Huggy Bear.
Okay.
starts getting hushed. He comes up, he says, "My brother." And at first I'm thinking, "Not your brother," but I'll let you finish. He says, "Can you help me get something to eat?" And I said, and I was in a decent mood. It's like, all right, what did you have in mind? And they're like 4 places, and he pointed to this expensive sandwich shop across the way. And I said, "That is what you think that I'm going to buy for you? You need to choose from the other side of the menu." And I said something to the effect of, beggars can't be choosers. If you're asking me to do something out of the goodness of my heart and I don't even know you, I couldn't fault him for starting up here. If he's going to ask for food, he wanted like a gourmet sandwich.
Were you in front of like a convenience store already?
No, we were in Durham, North Carolina, and there were like a lot of spots. There's like a Panda Express. There are all sorts of bunch of eateries. It was an open air market area, and the homeless people were out.
He chose
Like
he
pigeons.
chose
They knew where the
most
food was.
expensive plate.
Yes, yeah.
He shot for the moon.
And it said no. I said no, not there, because I know like every sandwich is gonna be like $16, something ridiculous. I said no. We can go over here to this like It was like this Subway looking place, and I get you like a $6 or $7 sandwich or something.
Yeah, but you always start the negotiation high. That's a good tactic. I applaud him
Yeah,
for that.
because then he knows anything less. He says, okay, hey, just give me a slice. Then it's like, all right, I'll get you that.
Yeah, then it's a win.
That's
He would have
straight
done
barter.
better to not say my brother.
Okay, real quick. Has it ever happened where someone is trying to hit you up for some change and I ain't got nothing, this, that, and that, and you come out with something for them and you see them on a cell phone?
No, that has not happened
I've
to me.
seen that.
I have not seen a
happened
cell
to me.
phone.
I went into the 7-Eleven. I got some chips and I got a drink for this cat outside. I came out and he was standing over by the side and he had a cell phone out and he was typing something in his cell phone. I walked right by him with those snacks. I was like, you blank and blank blank. How you got a cell phone that's obviously got service and minutes and all that? And you asking me, you better sell that cell phone.
Well, wait, was he making stock trades? What do you care?
It doesn't matter.
I don't care. You don't have a cell phone and you're asking me for money.
Yeah,
So
call
homeless
someone
people
else.
can't have a phone?
What you doing with the phone? You got money for your phone bill?
You don't know his story?
Thank
I don't
you.
need to.
I don't need to.
I don't need to.
I don't need to.
I get to decide because I'm the keeper of the cash.
His
I get to be judgmental.
His story, he's got a cell phone.
That's all I need to know.
Did you see him bidding on an eBay auction
You
on
know
the
what?
phone? You don't know what he was doing.
I don't care
Get
what
this guy.
he's got. You don't have money for a cell phone and not have money to eat. You don't have to have a cell
That's
phone,
right.
but you got to eat.
That's,
What if it was a government phone? They do give out government phones.
I don't want to hear
No.
about your Obama phone. I don't want to hear about
no?
it.
Then
I
use
don't
your
wanna hear about
EBT to
it.
get yourself some food.
Right. If he's got
Okay.
his own, he needs to look up where the nearest EBT center is so he can get that card.
That's exactly how Jesus would have put it. I'm proud of you.
I don't want to hear it.
Come on, Mark.
I definitely was not trying to hear from you.
Wow.
Jesus also taught someone how to fish. I would have taught his ass how to fish.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Mark, can I have
okay.
some money?
Time for the news.
It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI 8640. I'm going to talk Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, and Hillary Swank when we come back. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app and YouTube.
KF.
And you know we love all things Karate Kid here on this show. It's a part of pop culture since 1984. And part of the success of the show Cobra Kai was it hit all the right notes. It told you about all the principal characters, whatever happened to Johnny, whatever happened to Daniel, Ali with an I. Every single character was accounted for. Bad Boy, Mike Barnes, Bad Boy of Karate. We got to see everyone with the exception of one person. And that was Hillary Swank, the next Karate Kid. And I didn't hate this movie as much as everyone else did because I loved all things Karate Kid. It just wasn't a great movie.
Mr. Miyagi, I can't do this. I've tried 1,000 times.
You remember what I say first time we do this?
Pray?
Praying mantis always drop to one knee before strike. Hey,
She does a flying sidekick to a rock.
Yes! 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 I did it! I did it! Yes! I did it! Yes!
Okay, on reevaluation, it was a bad movie. It was bad. You know.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Going back to Cobra Kai, her character was the only one that we didn't get any follow-up on in the series of Cobra Kai. And Twala, you and I talked about it. We talked about it each season. It's like, I wonder if they're going to bring in Hillary Swank. They've gotten everyone else.
Yeah.
She was the only loose end as far as the Karate Kid universe. The only loose end. I didn't count Jaden Smith because that was a different timeline.
Yeah, different universe,
Yeah.
all that. But we thought that even at the last season of Cobra Kai, they were just going to sneak it because they kept saying there's a major surprise coming. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't Hillary Swank's, what was her name? Jenny? I can't remember what her name was.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But there's actually an Eddie Murphy tie-in. There was a story that came out in Entertainment Weekly today, and it detailed how the writers and producers of Cobra Kai had reached out to Hillary Swank's people, asking if she might want to be involved on not even like the whole season, maybe a 1 or 2 episode story arc like they did with Elizabeth Shue, Ali with an I. It turns out it didn't happen, so we never saw Hillary Swank. But Hillary Swank in other interviews said, no one has reached out to me. How can both things be true? And I will use Eddie Murphy as an example, or any big star. You always have to go through the gatekeeper. And from the way this story reads, the producers of Cobra Kai were trying to set up a meeting with Hillary Swank. In other words, they were going through a third party, a go-between, to see if they could get Hillary Swank interested. Since the meeting never happened, I'm of the opinion that the information was never passed along to Hillary Swank. So she could reasonably say, no one's reached out to me.
Yeah.
Because it didn't get to her. I'm quite sure Eddie Murphy has never seen my 15 requests to have him on it. Who is it we had on the show? Oh, it was Joe Morton. We had Joe Morton from Scandal on this show. And at the beginning of the conversation, I told him, like, hey, we've been trying to get you on for years. He's like, I had no idea. I would have been on if I would have known. Did. Which just meant that the request never got to him. And he has since come on the show like one or two other times since then. But many times when you're dealing with the publicist, or you're dealing with the agent, or you're dealing with the manager, or you're dealing with the production company, those requests don't necessarily get to the principal. And that's what it sounds like. Hillary Swank, if she were directly contacted or the information were passed on, there's no reason why she would just turn out a check like that. It was basically a cameo. It's not like she had to, lead the series or bear the weight of the success of the series.
Now, from my understanding, now that she is aware, conversations have begun anew because they're looking at doing a Cobra Kai spinoff where she can now be a part of that. So now there's new interest in saying, we have an angle where we can still bring that character back because of the legend of Miyagi that they're going into now.
Right. They're digging into Miyagi's past when he was a young man, when he first came to the United States. And there are other ways that they could weave her into the story. Like Daniel is on this search to find out more about Miyagi. Hillary Swank's character could be doing the same thing, and all of a sudden they cross paths.
Boom. Boom.
Yeah. So I hope that, because I don't think any actor is just going to turn down these free paychecks with just no real effort involved.
There's a story that came out today, and I never would have thought they would have redone it because I don't remember it being a good movie. But it turns out Tom Cruise is doing a sequel to Days of Thunder. And I said, wait, that wasn't a good movie to begin with.
It was not.
But it's a check. If Tom Cruise is like, oh, you've got a Days of Thunder check, a sequel, all these years later, I'll do it. There's no way Hillary Swank has turned down a Cobra Kai check.
Right. Because no one was asking for a Days of Thunder sequel. Nobody.
No one is. No.
No one. And I saw it as like, it was fine. Robert Duvall, it's fine. It was fine. It was a nice racing movie. I actually liked Talladega Nights better.
Yes.
The Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
Yes.
But as far as racing movies go, it was fine. It was fine, But I have to believe that Hillary Swank did not know, because there's no reason she turned down a paycheck, which probably would have been pretty sizable given that she's an Academy Award winner. And all she would have had to do, if I liken it to what Elizabeth Shue did, we're only talking about 2 or 3 scenes. Honestly.
Yeah. It would have been good for her. It would have given, I think, someone like a Hillary Swank a brand new lease on a career with a younger audience. It would have bridged her back to people who may not be familiar with her. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Cobra Kai is reintroducing a franchise from our generation and seamlessly passing it along to, like, my daughter. Like, she loves Cobra Kai. Like that's her joy. Her and her friends, they watch it. It's a show that for them, it's a coming of age story that they can relate to. And I'm like, wow, it was a coming of age story that I could relate to when I was your age. And now you're into it. See, that this is why she should have done it.
Is your son into it?
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, they both like it. They like Cobra Kai, of course, way more than Karate Kid.
Right.
But they're familiar with because of me watching. They're like, what is this? And then they watch it. They're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's not too late. And hopefully this will generate, to your point, more interest, because there's still another story to be told with Hillary Swank. And look, it's campy, it's cheesy, And Hillary Swank has obviously done campy and cheesy because the next Karate Kid was both campy and cheesy, truth be told. So it fits. But we'll keep hope alive, and hopefully that will eventually happen at some point. When we come back, we need to piss off Mark Ronner and show him once more that he is wrong when it comes to AI. It is inevitable, kind of like Thanos.
You're on the side of Ultron, not Thanos.
Well, I'm on the side of
The
Ultron.
bad guys. You're on the side of the bad guys.
I'm on the side of Thanos.
You're not on the
I'm
side
on the
of
side
people.
of Agent Smith. I'm on the side of just reality here.
They all had a point to be
did.
made.
Now
Even-
the
They
masks are
lost,
dropped
but they
now.
had a good point. See, Thanos, we'll tell you about this on the other side. Thanos wasn't wrong. The way he went about it was just psychotic. He didn't have to use the stones to kill off or disappear half the universe. How about doubling the food supply? Hello? And it would have been fine.
And he also didn't have to go about it making war. He could have just done it quietly. He didn't have to turn it into a big production.
No, he didn't.
And everyone would have just been snapped if he would have been like, what? What's going on? What
he
happened?
wanted all the credit. He wanted everyone to know who did it.
See,
He was a megalomaniac. He didn't
AI
have
is
to be.
not a megalomaniac, Mark.
If you say so.
We do. I don't know if this is life imitating art or art imitating life, but when I tell you, and also specifically Mark Ronner, we're going to resume our argument. When I tell you that Mattel has teamed up with OpenAI to create new products and experiences surrounding the Mattel brand and portfolio, don't think that they're the only company that's doing it. Don't think that Mattel is the only one, and it's not going to be Hasbro tomorrow, or it's not going to be some other product manufacturer, because that is the future. Quote, each of our products and experiences is designed to inspire fans, entertain audiences, and enrich lives through play. That's Josh Silverman, Mattel's CFO. AI has the power to expand on that mission and broaden the reach of our brands in new and exciting ways. Also, so not only are they going to integrate it in the products, but they're going to integrate AI in their internal operations, product development, and creative ideation, which means jobs are now gone. Designers of these toys no longer needed.
Imagine how thrilled children will be to hear this news.
What? Children don't care.
Children don't care.
Yeah, okay,
all children want is
Wait,
the
wait.
end product. No child is
Yeah,
like,
and-
did AI make this, Daddy?
I'll give you a perfect
I don't
example.
want it.
Yeah, kids love AI.
I remember when my sister got a Baby Alive, and Baby Alive is, Cardish, you don't know Baby Alive. Baby Alive is a doll that you could feed it and it would defecate. Okay?
What could be more fun?
But my point is, kids don't care if the toy, the product can do something cool. It doesn't matter. They're not having these sophisticated societal existential discussions about the future of the labor market. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. You're just spreading them for our robot overlords. Children don't care about that.
Kids are already part and parcel in partnership with the overlord.
Yes.
Ask any kid that's out there chasing after Pokemon with their phone. They're already out there deep into the AI world, and AI developments with Pokemon Catch 'em Go or whatever it's called
the
is
AI
what's taking it to the
augmented
next
reality.
level.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, children who would essentially be thrilled to play with like a face drawn in Sharpie on a popsicle stick have to be just thrilled with AI. There's nothing they want more than some AI in their
Children
lives.
do not make any
Mark,
distinction.
come on,
That's
Mark.
a dishonest argument. You know it.
You're
not
out of
even
your
sincere.
mind.
Mark,
You're,
like-
you're trying to sell out now before you're put onto the wheel of pain by the robots.
Mark, that doesn't happen in the real world.
It's like Vishy, Mo, and Tuala here. Okay,
It does
I
not
get you.
happen in the
Do
real
you
world.
think kids thought that, well, I shouldn't have this toy because it was created by robotics and that might have put people out of work? Do you think kids think along those lines or care?
I think kids
And-
don't think, boy, I can't wait to get home and play with my chat GPT.
No,
Actually, they do.
No,
They do.
No, they don't.
They do.
Tuala,
There
school him.
there are bunches and bunches and bunches of schools that are now trying to implement programs to help guide children to better practices on AI and ChatGPT because they are making friends with these programs. And
We
I
talked about
will
it.
tell you this, Mark. Factories that make G.I. Joe and Barbie and all those things, where it used to be an assembly line, it is now
Right.
just machines. Machines that have a computer program. One person put in the program, and now guess what you're going? Now a whole conveyor system is chink, 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 putting it all together.
There's going to be a whole generation of products across. When I say Mattel, we're talking about Barbie. We're talking about Hot Wheels. We're talking about Fisher-Price. All of those next generation toys will probably have either AI in the development of the product or AI integrated in the actual product or both.
Barbie, I need you to do a fact check for me. How thrilling.
No. And I believe Hasbro is also utilizing AI for the future development of games like Monopoly and things like that. And Hasbro is also saying we have to lay off bunches and bunches of people due to the tariffs. And that is one of the reasons why we are turning towards things like AI to help us where we can cut costs and still keep some people employed.
Yeah, this Monopoly game that's been around for centuries or however long it's been, that's the thing that was really missing from it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Some AI.
Wait,
Families couldn't have fun with Monopoly without AI.
You don't know that the digital board games have already included and implemented AI? You don't think when you're playing Risk online that it's not including AI as the computer player?
It's unnecessary. Who cares? It's not needed.
Why isn't it needed, Mark?
It's facilitating.
I don't know why it's not needed. I mean, you want people slaving away in factories?
What, were you oppressed somehow by the use of board games?
No, I'm saying
this difficult?
If you're
for people?
Hasbro and you have board games and they're now digital versions of the board games and you play them online, do you think you're playing an actual person?
Do you hate playing with actual people? Would
I'm
you
saying
not
if you
prefer
are
that?
Hasbro and you have the option of have a player zero option where you're playing against the computer, as we used to call it back in the day.
Yeah, gee, how rewarding.
And you don't have to hire and pay someone to actually sit there and play online. And you can have a computer play hundreds of people simultaneously. Why would you as the company not do that?
What an enriching experience for a child. Yeah.
No. Mark, kids are already playing against AI bots and all that when
Yes.
they're in any of these first player shooter games. They're not always playing against other kids. Sometimes they're just playing against the game. An AI program that is guesstimating what it is, asking you questions, where do you want to go now, taking you into different worlds. That's all AI.
Well, Tuala, I hate to step outside of my lane here because you're a father and I'm not. But have you thought
Why
of
do you
it?
sound like Leslie Nielsen on
Have you-
an airplane?
Right?
Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Do you like gladiator movies? Tuala, have you considered encouraging your kids to make actual human friends?
They have plenty. And you know what they do with them? They play online games.
Oh, okay. All right.
Look, Mark, we're not living in a world where I can have my kids walk miles and miles and miles to the mall and just, be out all day like I was when I was a kid.
Yeah, so just hook them
we
up
don't
with
live
some
in that
AI.
world.
Yeah,
We don't
okay.
live in that world.
You know,
Right
you-
now, we live in a world where people are snatching kids.
Yeah, you've solved the problems of today's youth. Applause for that.
We've been doing this since like 1984 with the movie War Games, actually playing online games against the computer. This is not new. It's just been improved.
You know War Games was fiction, right?
Yes, it was fiction, but even back then the military was also testing artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I don't know what your issue with AI is.
It's vile. It's evil. It's going to
I
lead
mean,
to our
did AI
downfall.
cheat on you
It does
when you were
not-
dating it or
It
something?
does nothing but
It
steal.
sounds so very personal.
It steals from human creators, and it only exists to pad the pockets of despicable human beings who don't want to pay their fellow human beings to do work and be creative. AI is it's rotten to the core.
Well, that's your
your
final
opinion.
take.
Well, it certainly is my thank goodness it's my opinion because I just said it.
Okay, let's talk Tyler Perry when we come back. There's no AI in that story,
Are
at
you
least as
sure?
of yet. As of yet, KFI AM 640, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app, and I'm going to let you know, we're going to talk Tyler Perry next segment, and then we're going to take it to the hallway during the break, because I know it's going to carry over.
I'm
I
not
know.
coming out to the hallway.
That's okay. That's all right. We can do this without you,
Good.
because we have AI. KFI AM 640 is later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. And I know that this next story is going to create a lot of waves because Tyler Perry is beloved for what he does. Beloved. He the quality of his work is debatable. And he has his most ardent fans. and he has his haters, but he, up until a certain point, up until now, his reputation, if you will, has been above reproach. He's helped a lot of older actors get a second start in this industry. He's put a lot of people back in work. He created this billionaire empire and studio in Atlanta, and he's pretty much autonomous, doing whatever he wants, producing the TV shows and movies that he wants, even though his critics say that they're of a lower quality. But personally, there's really not been any dirt about him until now. There is now a $260 million lawsuit regarding Tyler Perry. And it alleges sexual assault, and it alleges sexual harassment. Long story short, there are text messages, screenshots, which are in the lawsuit. It alleges that there was a quid pro quo. If you do this for me, I'll make sure that you are made a star, that I'll produce this project for you. It's a story that we've heard before, but this is different because it's someone the magnitude of Tyler Perry. Let me give you a comparison point. Tyler Perry could buy P. Diddy twice over and some. He is one of the biggest names in entertainment. He is one of the wealthiest people in entertainment, and he's never faced anything like this. Now, what do I always say, Tuala? What do I always say?
We, unfortunately, don't know these people.
The plaintiff is Derek Dixon. He appeared in 85 episodes of the TV show The Oval. We did have the star of The Oval on as our guest, Edward Quinn, but it's not him. I'm saying we are familiar with the show, and we're familiar with Tyler Perry's work on that show. And Dixon says that he has been trying to fend off Tyler Perry for a number of years. If you saw the text messages, and they're everywhere, screenshots of them. They go back as far as 2021. And this has been ongoing harassment, and it's become more belligerent and more pervasive as time has gone on. And Dixon said that, and I'm paraphrasing, that he was afraid for his future. He was afraid for the future of his character and his career, and obviously speaking out against someone the caliber and stature of Tyler Perry. I don't know what the truth is. I do know that in addition to we're not knowing these people, there will be more that will come out that will be more difficult to defend. If you lead with the text messages from 4 years ago, that tells me you have been keeping things to use later as evidence for years. You're starting with the text messages. There's probably audio from phone calls. They're probably recorded conversations in person, because there's an intentionality here. If you're holding on to messages from 4 years ago, I try to delete messages all the time just to not clutter up my phone. But if you're holding on to those, he was conscious about it possibly leading to this one day.
Was he conscious about it leading to this one day, or was he leading it to end up this way? Because it's like for 4 years, collecting text messages.
We're showing them right now on the YouTube.
And again, I'm not blaming this individual, but to me, it does come off as a little bit strange that he has been building up this cachet of messages to save up, and then is coming out with this multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Now, and my train of thought on this, it changed last time we talked to Jackie Ray, where she spoke on, are you coming out to basically to shame the devil? Are you trying to bring justice, or are you trying to get a payday? And have you been storing all this up all this time to ultimately just get a payday? Like, because if it was that pervasive, I'm sure it wasn't 4 years of just pervasiveness, was it? I don't know. I don't know.
You do know, because we both worked in the music industry and we've seen versions of this. There are people who enter into these kind of understood agreements. Okay, if I do this, you're going to do this for me. It's going to help my career. And then somewhere along the way, either party is dissatisfied with that unspoken agreement.
Yeah.
And then it falls apart. And then you know about other stuff that person was doing, and you bring that in. I know, let me just put it this way. I know people in the music industry who slept their way to the top, and then when they lost control of that situation, then they wanted to tell.
I know someone who made monthly payments on rent and everything else, and was getting all types of money from a record exec you and I know, and even got a car, and got the car as hush payment because it was, I need a ride, or do I need to take my bucket over to your wife's, job or whatever, and introduce myself. And a car was procured. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to, and again, I don't want to sound as if I'm doubting this individual because it's a man and as if men cannot be harassed in such a way. It's just this case right here. Now, if by tomorrow we start to see a bevy of accusations come out against Tyler Perry, then it leads more credibility to it. And I only say it because for all these years that Tyler Perry has been building, is this the first case? And if it's the first case,
it's the first case.
Why is it 4 years of you building a case against someone, which is what this sounds like?
Someone has to be the first, and this is my only concern. Because during the years of the abuse or the harassment, you kept receiving the paychecks. You kept as if everything was normal. If you can show me a history of you going to Tyler Perry Human Resources, for example, and document it's like, hey, he's doing this. I feel uncomfortable. He won't stop. I want to create a record of this because I don't want to lose my job over this. And you can show me that you were aware of how it may look, and you said no, and you told someone about it, then I'm more inclined to believe. But if you didn't, then it seems like you were okay with it as long as you were getting something out of it. Yeah. We don't know how complicit he was. Was there a level of relationship? Was it no every step of the way? Or did you say no, yes, no, yes, yo, yes, no, yes, no.
I mean, you were on for several seasons.
Yeah.
85 plus episodes of this show. It was like after the 85th episode, you were like, oh, so you're just going to cut me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then how you like this? Lawsuit.
Let's talk about this in the hallway. It's later with Mo Kelly.
Look, I really, really don't want it to seem as if because this is a guy that is coming out with these accusations against Tyler Perry, that it makes the accusations less believable. We don't personally know Tyler Perry. For all the good that he does, for all the people that he helps, for all the good things people may say about him. And I personally know people that work on the Oval, that have worked on several Tyler Perry shows, personally know them, and they say he is a saint. That just means that Tyler Perry has never done anything untoward against them. I just have an issue with this individual collecting these texts, collecting these voicemails as if to use for ammunition. To me, that does not sit right. To me, this sounds as if this is an individual who came into the situation with manipulation and a scheme at hand. And again, I know a young lady who she was all the way with getting with this record exec and getting it in and getting butt naked and butt wild with this cat. And when he decided to break it off and not keep paying her rent and all that, she was like, well, what is your wife going to say about this shit? And he was like, oh, okay. Oh, we doing it like that? Yeah, we're doing it like that. You don't want your wife to know? You don't want this to get out in the industry? I'm going to need this whip right here. And she got it. She got it. All right? So, got to weigh that shit in, man. You got to weigh that in.
So do you think if Tyler pays the lawsuit, does that make him guilty or does that make him look guilty?
No, there's going to be a settlement.
It's going to be settlement. There's going to be settlement.
If it goes forward, in the period of discovery, you have no idea what's going to come out. And sometimes celebrities settle to avoid that because he doesn't want his whole. He's been one of the most private celebrities out there, and you think you want his personal business out there? He doesn't want his personal business out there. It doesn't mean he's done anything criminal. Right. Shit, I would do the same thing. I don't want people just digging around in my life just to dig around and stuff. And there's something else. if there's other smoke, even unrelated to this, it may not be this person, it could be another person. It's almost like you let police in your house. It's like, I don't have any drugs, but what about the dead body in the bathtub?
Well, I know one of his last workers, Christian Keys, the guy who was on one of his plays, it wasn't Diary of a Mad, Medea Goes to Jail. He was on that play, the one with the big cross on his chest. But anywho, he came out and said that he was sexually assaulted by somebody who was working around Tyler Perry. He didn't say Tyler Perry was the person, but he would say somebody that was working around him. So
look,
that's what I'm like.
In this industry, sexual assault runs rampant, and it's called sexual assault now. We came up in the music industry where every rapper and every one of these things that you hear about Diddy, we seen that shit. That shit ain't new. No. All those parties, all the things that these rappers talk about that they're doing with these girls, seen it. Have been in strip clubs, have been in house parties where they're pouring champagne on girls. Have seen that shit, and it's been cool. It's been kosher. Right? I've seen, and Bona, we even had a common friend who we had on to talk about how a record exec literally came into her office, unzipped his pants, and
threw it on the table.
Put his Johnson on her desk and saying, you know what? I can't think about these records right now when I got to deal with this. What you gonna do to help me out with this? So again, we know for a fact that this happens.
Unprovoked? Like she never had no relationship?
No nothing.
That's
just
like
working relationship, just like here's how it's going down. All right, there are too many stories that I've seen. That's why when I see something like this, I have to look at it from
all perspectives.
Damn near 30 years in the music industry, in the entertainment industry, and say, this one right here,
and with
this
men,
one don't sound right.
And men is different for this reason. Yes, there may be a power dynamic as far as your job, but not a power dynamic as far as man to man. Because for me, it's like, motherfucker, what?
Think about Terry Crews.
Right.
When Terry Crews was assaulted, him, he was shocked. He didn't know what to do. He's like, yo, I'm big enough to tear this dude in half.
And the dude who assaulted Terry Crews was huge.
Bigger than him?
No, he was named in the industry.
He was a maker or breaker.
Yeah. And when Terry Crews finally came out,
that your career is done.
One of the biggest.
He made 3 phone calls. You'll get no jobs.
Terry Crews kept it to himself. When he finally came out, he came out to talk about what happens to men. He didn't come out saying, I'm suing this dude, that, and the other. It was, I need to let you know what happened to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. When I look at this, I'm like, not 4 years of you collecting text messages to come out, ha! Give me $250 million.
Somebody looked like it was giving a paycheck.
Yeah.
Been stolen. We'll tell you if they recovered them and how they did this tomorrow after 4 on the Conway Show.
KFI AM 640 is later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. If you missed our hallway chat, I'm so sorry, but that's what happens when you're not tuned in to the YouTube show. The hallway chat is we take a subject that we were discussing on air, and we take it literally to the hallway outside the studio and continue discussing it. But it's much more free. There's profanity. There's no holding back. We get to say everything which is on our minds that we can't say over the broadcast airwaves. And we went deep on the issue of Tyler Perry, the issue of sexual assault and harassment as it relates to men versus women, how it's a different dynamic as far as when the alleged victim is a man and the man is the accused. It's a different dynamic. And we talked about Terry Crews when he talked about how he was sexually assaulted, even though the person he accused was physically smaller than him. He was much larger than him as far as stature in the business. And I understand it when people are worried about the future of their career, and that's a consideration. And sometimes you may put up with things that you wouldn't necessarily normally put up with. But the question that Twala, you brought up is when you have someone who shows signs of premeditation, they are saving the text messages. They're obviously compiling evidence for a later date, for a rainy day. It does call into question, like, were you kind of okay with this until it wasn't?
Yeah.
It's a fair question to ask. And I know the defense, his lawyers are going to obviously, jump on that. But still, I would be more concerned, and you also made this point, if anyone else comes out, because it's usually never just one. With Diddy, it wasn't just one. With Bill Cosby, it wasn't just one. Harvey Weinstein, it wasn't just one. If this leads to 5, it leads to 10, then it makes the original person seem all that much more believable, especially if a pattern can be demonstrated.
And Carnisha brought up a great question. Will Tyler Perry pay? Will he try to settle out of court? And if that does happen, does that then make Tyler Perry guilty?
And we were talking about this in the hallway, and I said, not necessarily, if only because when you have a lawsuit like this, there's this thing called discovery, where you put everything on the table that you found. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the specifics of this case. And I always use the analogy of, you be careful when you let the police into your house. They may be coming in looking for drugs, but they find that you have a dead body in the bathtub. Meaning, when you have discovery, Tyler Perry is going to have to open up his whole life, or everybody and their text messages and phone exchanges will be, fodder and also evidence in the case to discern whether there's a pattern, how he relates to other employees, if he propositioned other people, or if there's some other behavior which is not the focus of this, which then turns into something else. I'm not trying to accuse Tyler Perry of anything. I'm just saying it's a dangerous game when you get into discovery realm. And that's part of the reason, like, Diddy wanted to settle, or did settle, with Cassie originally, because Diddy knew that there were a whole bunch of other skeletons that he could not let come out. And the longer that Cassie's lawsuit hung out there, the more likely stuff came out. As it turned out, it didn't stop anything. But I'm not saying Tyler Perry's done something else. I'm saying you lose control of what it may turn into the moment you go to discovery. And that's why many celebrities just say, let me just pay this money to have this go away, not admitting any type of fault or culpability. But it's safer for me and my brand as Tyler freaking Perry.
I mean, we really just happened to see this with Shannon Sharp. When Shannon Sharp was like, he paid outright because he wanted it to be over. He didn't want his family to be, brought in to this. He didn't want his name dragged through the mud. He said, let me go on and just pay because I need this to go away. I cannot put my family through this. I'm going to go and hide out somewhere, because even though I'm telling you for a fact that this isn't true, it doesn't matter right now. I cannot have my family go through that. I remember years ago, decades ago, when Michael Jackson made the first payout to a alleged accuser. He said he did so because he did not want it in the news. He said, my team and I felt it was best that we just go on and pay out now and let this greedy succubus go away.
Tommy Godlove asks, hey, Mo, do you think Tyler Perry could be the next Harvey Weinstein? Well, I kind of addressed that. I'm saying, what is 1 could turn to 2, which could turn to 4 and 5 and everything. We don't know these people, so I can't tell you either way. People saw Bill Cosby as America's dad. We saw how that turned out. There's no telling what's in someone's history or closet or proverbial closet. So you just don't know. I do know that nothing is impossible in this entertainment industry.
Yeah. That part right there.
You're a billionaire. You have a lot of power over people, and sometimes you use that as leverage over people that you're trying to get with. I'm just being honest. I saw it all the time in the music business. When we come back, we got the Viral Load with Tiffany Hobbs. KFI AM 640. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app.
Now on the Mo Kelly Show, it's Tiffany Hobbs, the Viral Load.
She'll speak of all the viral things social media can bring.
Facebook, Insta, X, TikTok, the Viral Load with Tiffany Hobbs. Viral Load, Viral Load, the Viral Load. Viral Load with Tiffany Hobbs.
KFI AM 640. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. Let's throw it over to Tiffany Hobbs for the Viral Load.
So in preparing for this Viral Load, I had a list of stories, and then at the last minute, I hit Tawala and I said, Tawala, I have a late entry and we're bumping it up to number 1. Now, Tawala told me this topic has been discussed on the Later with Mo Kelly show before. I haven't heard it, but that's probably because I blocked it out due to the nature of the content. So, fair warning, this is your opportunity to remove children from the area because things are about to get a little real. There's a trigger warning there. So, do that now in 3, 2, 1. Okay, there's a trend, and it is back in the viral stratosphere because there's a man who was 21. He is 21. He did survive this trend, and he was hospitalized due to this particular act. And the act is called sounding.
Huh?
Sounding. Let me tell you what happened to this young man. Again, 21 years old. So this young man decided that he was going to participate in this risky sex act called sounding. And sounding has to do with vibrational sensations that can cause you pleasure, or in this case, pain. So what did this kid do? Well, he took a USB cable.
Oh, no.
Think of those thick cables that are behind your TV or your electronic equipment. And he inserted the USB cable into his urethra.
No.
But it does not end. Please, no. It does not end there. The story only gets worse. So the cable itself, a USB cable, is pretty thick. The opening to your urethra is not. So he inserted this U-shaped loop, which left both ends hanging outside of his wang dang doodle. Can I say that?
KFI AM640 live. Commercial.
And it gets better or worse for him. And the cable got stuck. Okay.
Of course it did.
He thought he was going to put it up there and it was going to come right on out, so to speak. Well, it got stuck. And of course, he had to then go to the emergency room, go to the doctor. Now, other objects should not be, but are often inserted into that same area, including cotton swabs. And I have a list I'll share with you of other things in a moment, but wire cables, not so much. So because he was unable to extract this cable, the emergency room had to perform kind of emergency surgery. They tried at first to do it while he was awake, yanking and pulling on the cable.
Stop!
I
wish you could look at Stefan right now. We are like, ooh, 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 ooh.
This is why women live longer. To no avail. So they had to put him under. The emergency room doctors did. And they were able to extract the cable using special tools and kind of snipping the cable along the way. They kept him in the hospital for a week for monitoring. He was discharged with painkillers and antibiotics. And a month later, he returned to the hospital for a checkup, showing that he was fine. So he has no lasting damage. That's the upside.
Did he use the cable after that to charge his phone?
God.
Thank you very much.
Here are some examples of objects previously used in this act of sounding. And of course, the story went viral.
Wait, I have a question. How is it sounding? What's the connection between the name sounding and a USB cord up your thing?
So there, according to Tawala, who educated me on all of this, and I'm sure he'll run in here at some point.
How did I get roped into this?
Sounding does have to do with the vibrational sensation of this particular, or the objects as they're inserted. So I guess if you tap on the object as it's hanging outside of your thing, your wang dang doodle, it can cause a vibration that some find pleasurable. Okay?
No.
Yes. Here are some examples of other objects inserted into that people have inserted and that emergency rooms have had to extract. They include, get ready for this, gentlemen, forks, telephone cables, metal piping, nail clippers, an Allen key, needles, olive seeds, batteries, a skipping rope, a coyote rib, and even a decapitated snake. There you go.
No.
Yes, that's what happened with this young man in the story that went viral.
Did you say a rib?
A coyote rib.
No.
Maybe there's a store somewhere where people are buying these.
I'm trying to think, where do you get a
figuring it out.
coyote rib from?
I don't want to know at this point.
And who was the one that said, you know what? I think I got an idea.
This is a good idea.
I got an idea. Why don't we take that coyote rib? Who's the first one to do that? And then what's the story that you tell when you go? Obviously, you end up at the doctor.
Tawala had a lot of information about it, and I was hoping he could join us for this segment.
Tawala
but I feel like all the men have
better.
fled the building at this
Here he
point.
comes.
Is he coming?
Yeah.
Oh, Tawala.
He's arriving.
Hello, you have arrived. This is real journalism here.
You got to hit the other button to your left.
Wait,
That one. There we go.
Okay, look, when I was explaining sounding to David, I just wanted to make sure that she knew what it was and that it is an actual thing, like sounding.
Literally.
When you put a tool. We talked about this maybe a year ago, Mo, where a guy had used a chopstick.
I claim no remembrance of this.
You put something in, sometimes you'll tap it, to get a vibration
Morse code.
to kind of travel through the urethra. And there's all type of things. People have gotten coat hangers, everything. People use all type of things to do it. Yeah. And most folks
Maybe I
get
just
stuff
blocked it
stuck.
out of my mind.
You may have, because it was a really deep conversation.
We
There was
talked
lots
about
of
stuff
pain.
that would get
Really?
stuck in orifices and openings, but I didn't know that they had coined a term for it.
Yeah. I think I had explained once how I had something pulled through my urethra.
Careful.
No, I did know when I
A
was
medical procedure.
a medical
Okay.
procedure. I had to have my catheter pulled out.
Oh,
it was
Yeah.
it came through the urethra. I was like, okay, so where's the catheter at? They're like, well, we're gonna have to take a hook needle with a camera and go inside your urethra to grab the catheter and then pull it all the way out. And I was awake for this. They shot a numbing solution down in there. And they go deep in with the camera, and they
Go to
you
break.
feel it, and you feel it pull all the way out.
KFI AM 640, we're live
No.
everywhere.
Hang on just a second here. I'm not done with this.
No. What do you mean done? You needed to start.
Well, I think the first problem with the guy is that he used a USB cable when really you want one of those Apple Lightning plugs.
You ace hola.
The dongle. Is that it?
Aptly named.
Are we done before we go to?
No. No. I don't know. The Allen wrench I can almost kind of see. But the lingering question here is, Tawala, is there footage of this? You said they had a camera.
No,
There's-
there probably is.
There's so much
There
more
probably is.
viral load on the
I know
other
there's.
side.
Put us with anytime they use a camera, there's footage. Like there's footage of my colonoscopy. I decline to look at it, but there's footage of
You
it.
should put that up on the YouTube.
Surely not. I don't want to see the insides of my intestine. No,
I think we need this footage.
I did see it when I woke up.
No, I was awake while they were doing this. I saw it on camera. I saw them film it while they went in to go get it.
Well, we haven't seen it.
Mark, you're the only one that wants to see it.
I mean, look, I'll call Cedars and see if they'll like drop it for you, like
You want it? You want on a jump drive maybe?
No drives. Let's just let's keep it streaming,
USB?
so to speak.
Don't reward his immaturity. KFI AM 640, we're live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. Part 2 of the viral load coming up in just a moment. Mark Ronner with the news right now.
Now it's time for the viral load with Tiffany. Live on KFI's later with Mo O'Kelly. She'll talk about the top hits on social media. The viral load with Tiffany Hobbs.
KFI AM 640, it's later with Mo Kelly, live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. Now here's part 2 of the viral load.
So, as we all know, AI is highly convincing in some ways, and in other ways, you might be able to detect that what you're looking at or listening to even isn't real. But in more cases than not, AI has become extremely realistic, and it's fooling a lot of people. And in one such way people are being fooled is through these AI-generated newscasts. We have a clip of about 3 or 4 newscasters or broadcast journalists, and you're going to hear their voices, But pay very close attention to what they say at the end.
Angela Carter here, live from the Cedar Grove flood disaster. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Dana Brooks reporting live from Ocean View Beach. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Charlotte Reed reporting live from Clearwater Beach, where an unidentified... Just kidding, I'm not real.
So you heard their voices, and what you did not see is that in the background of those 3 newscasts were different stories that took place at a beach. The beach is fictional, it's AI, but it looks to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, to be completely realistic. It could be any beach, anywhere. And in one of the broadcasts, there's a UFO that's really big, and it emerges from the water. In another one of the broadcasts, there's a sea creature that emerges from the water. And in the other one, there's another unidentifiable object or creature. And in each one of those broadcasts, the journalist or the news person, if you will, looks just like any personality you might see on your daytime or evening news. It is really difficult to detect whether or not these figures are human. But if this is any indication of where news could potentially go, it's extremely dangerous and it's very scary because a lot of people are going to be falling for a lot of fraudulent newscasts.
Of course they're going to fall for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's about confirmation bias.
Yeah.
If you believe something, anything that looks halfway legitimate is going to be your evidence to point to. It's like, yes, the world is flat. I saw it on the news.
Yeah. And the thing about it is the people who often believe or fall for these sorts of charades or this fraudulent information aren't people who have that media literacy. We talk about it all the time. They're people who are removed from, I would say, the daily updates about AI, and people who will be very easily influenced by what they're seeing. So that story is going viral. If you're on the YouTube channel here, it's showing in the background, and you can certainly see just how realistic those broadcasts are. For our last story, it's a Disneyland story. I love Disneyland. I wish Nick Paleocchini was here for this, but if you've gone to Disneyland, then you certainly know Disney is all about the magic. Talk about confirmation bias. We go to Disneyland, especially as children, to immerse ourselves in this fictional storybook land. But what happens when these character actors, whether princesses, villains, parade leads, dancers, or more, become known outside of Disneyland due to their social media handles? What's going on is that there are 2 princesses or 2 characters that have gone viral recently. I'm going to focus on one. And that particular one is the evil queen. Think Snow White. You have your evil queen. Well, Disneyland in Anaheim and Disneylands around the world have this evil queen character. But in Anaheim specifically, the actor is going viral because she is ruthless. You know the term roasting, where you make fun of people? Well, this actress goes through the park in the area, Storybook Land, and she just makes fun of people, and people love it. And she's gone viral because people are recording their interactions with her. And when they post it, what happens next, and what's been happening over the last few weeks, is people are trying to unearth the true identity of the evil queen. Now, you have all over social media questions about who she really is. And you have quite a few people who have been doing their kind of detective work to figure it out. But thanks to these viral videos and these well-meaning Disney detectives, more and more performers are finding that their jobs are on the line. Disney has a very strict policy of maintaining the magic. If you are a character actor, you are not supposed to in any way reference that character in your personal life. No one is to know that you play that character. Now, there are some very careful workarounds, but in most cases, character actors have to suspend or delete altogether their social media. And what's being said now is that the iconic evil queen in Anaheim may have been let go from her position because people have found out, or at least have been trying to find out, who she is.
I have met her on a couple occasions when they opened up Disneyland to the media last year. She was one of the featured talent, and my son was interviewing her. So when I saw her on the video on our YouTube channel, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. And to your point, they are very strict about keeping your personal life and your Disney life separate because it maintains the magic.
Absolutely. And again, characters can post about the character they're playing. The actors can post about the character, but they have to do it in a way that separates them from the character. They can say, hey, I know the evil queen, or I'm friends with that actor, but they can never say that they play that actor. So because of the viral nature of these videos, this particular actress, and there are multiple who play the evil queen, but one of them specifically is going viral again, and her job may or may not have been compromised. The jury is still out on that one, but as of right now, from what I've seen, she is not there. They've turned to other actresses. And that's the end of tonight's Viral Load. You can catch me on Saturdays, 5 to 7 p.m., Saturdays with Tiffany. For more of this, we'll be taking a deeper dive at 6 p.m. about this Disney story as well. So make sure you tune in.
When we come back, we'll get an update on Gary Coleman, the late comedic actor. Was he murdered, and was his ex-wife the murderer? We'll talk about that next. Now to Mark Rodder in the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app and YouTube and Instagram. Last year on Peacock, there was a great documentary titled Gary, talking about the life and eventual death of Gary Coleman, the comedic actor, the diminutive comedic actor. Talked about his story of how he was discovered, his aspirations, how immensely famous and popular he was at the peak of his career, and the unfortunate downfall and the tragic circumstances of how he, quote unquote, ended up dead at his house. It's a great documentary. You should see it. One of the guests featured in the documentary is the ex-wife of Gary Coleman, named Shannon Price. And according to her, she was made assurances, promises were made as far as what was going to be put in or not put in, how she was going to be depicted, and she objected to that. What I'm going to play for you right now is Shannon Price telling her version of where she was when Gary Coleman was found dead by her.
I was in bed, and Gary was already downstairs. And to me, it sounded like pans that hit the floor.
What's the problem? Tell me what's happened. I had my husband go make me something downstairs. He just got home. I heard this big bang. I went downstairs, blood everywhere. I don't know if he's okay. Is he conscious? I don't know. No, he was like bubbling at the mouth. Send someone quick, because I don't even know if he's like gonna be alive.
I got out of bed and I went downstairs, and there he was laying down on the floor with blood around his head.
I don't know if he had a seizure. I don't know if he just hit his head and fell. I just can't be here with the blood. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I just can't.
I did not want to intervene with where all the blood was because I knew help was coming.
I'm gagging. I got blood on myself. I can't deal. I don't want to be traumatized right now.
I mean, blood doesn't really freak me out. It was just the amount of it.
Let me know when the officers are with you, okay? He's here right now. I'm going to let you go, okay, Shannon? Okay. All right, thank you. Bye. Bye.
That was her story for the documentary Gary. Shannon Price is not pleased with it at all. But there's now a new A&E series called Lie Detector, Truth or Deception, and it's going to put Shannon Price in the hot seat. The 2-hour premiere, hosted by investigative journalist Tony Harry, is set to air on July 10th. And Gary Coleman died in 2010, and just a little snippet of this lie detector show that she'll be on.
I just want to set the record straight for the last time for all the naysayers and all the negativity out there that I did not kill Gary Coleman. I did not kill Gary Coleman. Period. I did not kill him.
Well, that doesn't convince me, but there you go. Mark, told you at the beginning, I'm going to remind you, it's one of the best documentaries I've seen. And part of the reason is we remember the meteoric rise of Gary Coleman. You kind of know some of the story about how his parents took his money, but when you get down to the granular stuff about what his parents did to undermine him and to rob him, and the court battles, and you get to hear it from their parents' mouth as far as what they did and why, he is far more sympathetic. And
he sounds like he had a pretty tragic life.
He did, from a medical standpoint and a career standpoint. Career standpoint, what his parents did to him, robbing him blind and having to start over. From a medical standpoint, of making him basically go out there and tap dance while he was sick, no functioning kidneys, and still trying to maintain some semblance of a lifestyle.
All the kids from that show had rough lives, it turns out.
Yeah, there's no happy ending for anyone connected to that show, pretty much.
Yeah, the girl, I forget her name, the actress.
Dana Plato.
Yeah, didn't she either overdose or commit suicide?
It might have been both, but it was definitely overdose, or maybe accidental suicide, but it was definitely drug-related.
Yeah, showbiz takes a massive toll on kids.
And Todd Bridges is part of it. Obviously, he's the only one left from the show, and he sits down and gives a lot of great insight about who Gary Coleman was, just as a person, as a kid. He was always seemingly older than he was. You know, he was playing a kid on TV, but he was an adult after a certain point. You know, he did grow up, but because of his kidney.
Molestation documentary on HBO last night. Let's just have the next one on the assembly line.
I don't think it was depressing. I think it made him a far more sympathetic figure, and maybe you feel better that he's at rest now, given how life was just tortured for him every step of the way. Because we were similar in age, close in age. I think he was maybe 2 years older than me. And growing up, it's like, man, I wanted to be Gary Coleman, in the sense of to have that type of fame, to be on TV. Because the first time I saw him, he was on The Jeffersons. He was great as a guest co-star.
Wait, Gary Coleman was on The Jeffersons?
Yes.
I didn't see that episode.
He was on The Jeffersons. He was on Good Times as well. He did like the whole tour of the Norman Lear shows.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Were they like, did he play that character? Like, was it a crossover?
It was usually someone's nephew or someone who, like, they had to babysit him for the day, that kind of thing. But no, he was not playing Arnold.
So it wasn't one of those backdoor pilots that you see in a lot of shows.
No, it was not.
Okay.
It was not. It wasn't a way to spin off the show. Like, we're playing the entrance of Gary Coleman on The Jeffersons right now on our YouTube channel. If you ever get a chance to see it, you can find it on YouTube. You could tell he was a magnificent talent at a very young age, comedic timing, and able to remember so many lines. Marvelous talent. And unfortunately, he's another story of the industry just eating him up. When we come back, I'll crosstalk with George Norrie, find out what's going on with Coast to Coast AM. And also, I'll have my final thought on U.S. and Iranian relations. That's next. KFI AM 640. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. Mark Runner now has the news. Live on YouTube, Instagram, and the iHeartRadio app. Coming up in just moments will be Coast to Coast AM with the George Norrie. George, good evening, my friend.
Mr. Kelly, we've got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about gambling addictions, and then later on we're going live to Israel to talk with mentalist Uri Geller, who will update us on the Iranian-Israeli situation and also talk about the strange and unusual.
It's weird how you kind of just keep setting up my final thoughts. I'm going to talk about the history of U.S. and Iranian relations.
That's because your producer calls me and tells me what you're talking about.
That explains it. Have a great show, my friend.
See ya.
And here it is. I remember it vividly. I'm old enough to remember the Iran hostage crisis. November 4th, 1979, when Iranian militants seized the U.S. embassy in Tehran and took 66 Americans hostage. 52 eventually remained for the total 444 days. I remember the great Paul Harvey giving news updates along the way. He was a magnificent newsman and storyteller. Growing up, talk radio was my only real reference point as to U.S. and Iranian relations. By the time I got to high school, I learned a little bit more of the fullness of the history, how we, as in the United States, helped stage a coup in 1953, overthrowing, get this, an Iranian democratically elected prime minister with the goal of installing a U.S.-friendly dictator. Imagine that. We overthrew, the United States, overthrew an actual democracy to instead put in a dictator. Isn't it supposed to work in the other direction? Weren't we supposedly in the business of exporting democracy? Well, not in 1953 we weren't, but it was then that we as in the CIA, along with the British MI6, installed the Shah of Iran. And Shah is Persian for king. The same Shah who was eventually overthrown in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution. The reasoning was that a U.S.-friendly dictator better served our interests, wink, wink, in the Cold War against the Soviet Union. We'd have a puppet friend in the region, and it would be a bulwark against further Soviet expansion, which was a thing back then. Iran bordered the Soviet Union. The newly installed Shah was only 22 years old. Imagine that. The plan was that he would provide stability for possibly 50 to 60 years. And by stability, I mean the constant flow of oil. But long story short, when anyone should talk about the history between the U.S. and Iran, it is most definitely complicated, and it traces all the way back to 1953, not 1979, because there's no 79 without 53. But then there's also 1980. When the U.S. backed Saddam Hussein in the Iraq versus Iran war. Yes, that very same Saddam Hussein. That was our way of getting back at the new Iranian leadership, the Ayatollah Khomeini, because we couldn't do it directly. We couldn't go at Iran directly. Here's why. The Algiers Accords of January 19th, 1981, and if you know your history, that was one day before Ronald Reagan was inaugurated as president. Well, the accords were signed to formally end the hostage crisis, but it had stipulations. Chiefly, the U.S. would not intervene politically or militarily in Iranian internal affairs going forward, at least not directly. Hence the backing of Saddam Hussein in that proxy war. Hence the freezing of Iranian assets in the U.S. and sanctions for various reasons then and since over the decades. What is often overlooked in the telling of the U.S.-Iran history is that Iran's nuclear program originally began in the 1950s under the Shah, and its chief supporter, say it with me, the United States. We helped start Iran's nuclear program. Back then, as I said, Iran shared a border with the Soviet Union. The U.S. couldn't put nukes in Iran. That would be like putting nukes in Cuba like the Soviet Union did years later, and that led to the Cuban Missile Crisis. But if Iran were to, wink, wink, develop nuclear weapons on its own, the geopolitical benefits at that time of a Western supporting Shah installed by the U.S. having nuclear weapons had all sorts of short-term and long-term benefits. But that same nuclear program that was started in the 1950s is now the chief item of contention a half-century later. I know, it's complicated. So when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says and has been saying that Iran is on the verge of a nuclear weapon, yeah, they've been at that doorstep for decades. It's not an exaggeration. But here's the thing that they leave out: with a lot of help from us. That's one uncomfortable truth. Iran didn't have to start from scratch. Their original reactors were ordered shut down after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, but the program was restarted in secret in the 1980s during the Iran-Iraq War. Now, you tell me. Do you really think it takes 45 plus years to get a nuclear bomb when you've been working on it since maybe 1980? So when Iran says publicly that its nuclear ambitions are directly tied to the eradication of Israel, it's fair to say Israel's concerns are warranted. But the U.S. helped create this Frankenstein monster. That's what's always left out. We didn't become geopolitical enemies in 1979 out of nowhere, and Iran didn't start working on a bomb in the 1990s. It was well before that. Both are lies. So here's the truth. The bombing of Iran by Israel that we're talking about today was a long time coming. It was always leading to this moment. The involvement of the U.S. in this bombing was also inevitable because of the history leading up to this moment. There was never a scenario in which a war with Iran was not also going to include the U.S. on some level. And Donald Trump is going to jump at the chance. I don't care what he said while he was campaigning. He wants this. Our involvement may not include boots on the ground, but we have been headed in this direction since 1979. And we're sure as hell not going to stop now.
Now you know the rest of the story.
For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly.
KFI and KOST HD2